In this new segment, we'll be reviewing candidate resumes and career stages. We'll explain how a candidate might have gotten into their current role, how they can continue to progress in their career, and what their growth options might be moving forward. Mike and Eddie, here is an example of a resume of someone a few years into the industry. Can you dive a little bit deeper into what they've been doing, how they got into their role, and what their options would be career-wise 2 years in?
Sure. So, kind of, this is a fairly regular resume that we come across where somebody's a couple of years in a support capacity at a firm. What I liked about this one particularly is they had an internship in the business. They probably learned the pathway they wanted to take, which was a support role within wealth management, and joined their current firm and has brought exposure to different facets of the business. As you can see here in the first bullet, there's providing support to the portfolio managers, the investment analysts, the client service teams, in all likelihood working in conjunction with a lot of the financial advisors. So getting broad exposure. And what we can also see is that they acquired some licenses along the way. They got the SIE, they got the Series 65, they got their life and health insurance license. So I think they've done a nice job of getting exposure within the business, understanding the different aspects of a traditional wealth management firm, from operations to client service to investment strategy to financial planning. And I've done a good job of adding licenses probably outside of business hours to add value and take on more responsibility in time. So I think this is a good progression for a couple of years in and should open the doors to some other opportunity within their firm, depending on what's most important to them and likely where the firm needs are.
Yeah, so I'll hop in, Kyla. I agree with everything Mike said. We only have a few bullet points to really understand what's going on when we look at the resume. And so what stands out to me is likely they've had exposure to financial planning and maybe doing some power planning, but it doesn't explicitly say it here. So that'd be a question. Do you want to stay more in client service? Do you want to stay more in investment ops and go down that path? Or do they have an interest in full planning? So that could be another direction. And I think to Mike's point, like we need to see where the firm's at. I think when you're evaluating a career decision, I'd think about this term mutual readiness, meaning you as a professional need to build confidence, have the licenses and the experience in order to progress. But in many cases, if it's an independent practice, the firm needs to be ready to promote you where they have an opening or need additional capacity. So I think saying yes to a lot in your role early on in your career can be very helpful. I think when you're at the executive level or a supervisory role, you might want to start saying no to things to have more of a narrow focus and execute on less things and do it better. But early stage career, I think the more that you can say yes and raise your hand, the more exposure you're going to have to see what pathway you might want to take or learn more about. So right here, 2 years in, looks like a lot on client service and investment ops. We guess some exposure to planning, but how much? And I think it's up to the firm and the candidate to figure out what the next step is.
And what could next steps look like from here, whether that's designations or growth within this role or within the firm?
I think it could be a few things, Kyla. I think certainly someone could start to prepare for the CFP if financial planning is the path they want to take and can add a lot of value that way. I think somebody could earn other securities licenses if that's a firm need, and that's going to be dependent on the firm setup. And I think they could also gain mentorship and raise their hand within their firm to take on more responsibility outside of the normal scope of their role, to get broader exposure, to see what they like, to also learn from folks in other roles that have more experience to determine their career path. So I would suggest doing that when you're within a firm. Raise your hand, take on additional projects, seek out mentorship to really get guidance and practical hands-on experience that can help dictate and carve out your career path to see where you're most passionate.
Yeah, and what we don't know about this candidate is if in their plan they eventually want to be a client-facing advisor. So maybe they said, "Hey, I want to get a few licenses and a few years underneath my belt before I go down that path." So this could be, I wouldn't say a fork in the road, maybe an opportunity for them to sit in on more client meetings, sit second chair. We can talk about that role in a future video to see. If they should edge forward towards more of a client-facing advisor role. This could be a good opportunity to evaluate that.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike and Eddie. Stay tuned for our next video to see the next stage of this candidate's career path.